everybody, and welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be my medium and large eyeshadow palette declutter and collection. This is probably going to be more of a collection video because I really don't plan on getting rid of any of these palettes. There may be one that I may get rid of, but for the most part, I am going to be keeping most of these palettes. A lot of these are pretty new to my collection, so I've only had them maybe a couple of months. There's only one in here that I've had for a little bit over a year, and that was my very first eyeshadow palette. But this is my eyeshadow drawer, and but this is where I keep some of my funner like eyelashes. I really don't use that many eyelashes. I have a few from Ardell, but I got this one. It's the Samantha number 7. And I got this one from the, there's like a Sephora Favorites. So I do have a pair of those lashes. And then I purchased 2 from Wet n Wild. These were part of like their like summer collection. I don't really remember what the names of these are. I haven't really played around with them. I do want to start playing around with lashes, so I just kind of keep those here. Other than that, I do like to use the Ardell Wispies if I am going to wear lashes. So these are really like my 3 only fun set of lashes. But for the most part here, I keep, you guys can't really see it, I keep like some backup items here. So like I keep like backup mascaras. This is the Triple Eye Remedy from First Aid Beauty. So let's go ahead and get started with my eyeshadow palettes. So let's start with this one right here. I recently got this one in a BoxyCharm, and it's the Studio Makeup on the Go palette. It's pretty much just like a neutral eyeshadow palette. I really like the formulation of these eyeshadows, so I do think I'm going to get some good use out of them. They're really nice, and it's a small enough palette that I'm going to go ahead and give this a go and see how I like it. So I'm going to be keeping that for now. Then I have 2 of my all-time favorite palettes, and I have the Meet Matrimony palette, and I'm sure you guys have seen what this looks like. And then I also have the Meet Mad Nude palette, and that's what that looks like. These are fairly new to my collection. I've recently got the Meet Matrimony through the Ipsy website. They had like an Ipsy offers on it. And the Meet Matte Nude I've maybe had less than 6 months in my collection, but I absolutely adore these palettes, and I think they're completely worth getting them. I have seen these several times on HauteLook at 50% off. So if you do plan on purchasing them, either get them off HauteLook or wait for the Balm to have their 50% off flash sale that they normally have a couple of times a year. I have one Z palette, and I recently purchased this one because I decided to purchase some Makeup Geek eyeshadows. So here I have every single one of their like duochrome or multi-chrome, or like the ones that pretty much will flash different colors. So those are all of those right here from Makeup Geek. Then I got some Ofra eyeshadows that actually came with like a smaller Ofra shadow set, or an Ofra palette, and those are pretty much on this side of the palette here. I have this highlighter from Ofra. This one right here is from, it's like an Urban Decay one, Urban Decay Lounge. This is I can't remember what this eyeshadow is. I believe it's another eyeshadow from Ofra. And then these right here are from that really big Urban Decay On The Go palette that they had. I depotted all of them, and some of them did break, but for the most part they stayed together, and I really do like using these. These are really nice and pigmented, and I like to use these colors here as transition colors, but I really do like these eyeshadows, so I really do enjoy using these, which is why I depotted them and kept them. And this is like a holographic Z palette, and I purchased this one off of Amazon, so I am probably going to pick up one more of these larger Z palettes just in case I decide to pick up any more singles, in particular from Makeup Geek, because I really do like the Makeup Geek formulation. So I am interested in purchasing some more single eyeshadows from Makeup Geek. So I did pick up the Graveyard Girl Swamp Queen palette. I'm sure you guys have seen what this looks like. I kind of heard mixed reviews on this thing. But I picked it up because I am a huge Graveyard Girl, so I picked it up to support her. Even though some of the shadows in here are really nice, but for the most part, this is it's a pretty good palette. It's a workable palette. Those shimmery shadows do have a lot of fallout, but you just, use some type of glitter glue or a really good base, and they'll stay on quite nicely. So I'm not getting rid of that one. And like I said, this is also kind of like my backup drawer, so I have lots of backups here. So these are the rest of my palettes here. And this one I recently got, it was on sale at Sephora, and this is the Amazonian Clay Collector's Palette by Tarte. And I haven't even used this one. Like I said, I recently purchased this one maybe about a month ago. So it has 3 blushes and a couple of eyeshadows. Hopefully it focuses in there. But as you guys can see, I haven't really even touched this palette. But some of these shades are really nice. But it's, for the most part, a pretty neutral palette. So you guys can see they swatch really nicely, but I haven't used this one. So for that reason, I'm not going to get rid of it because it is so new to my collection. The next 2 palettes that I have in here are both from The Balm, and these are the Nude Tude and the Nude Dude palette. Now, I talked about these during my palette tag. I believe I talked about the Nude Dude. I was a little disappointed with the Nude Dude formulation, so that's what it looks like right there. And, it has all of the little guys on there. For the most part, this is a nice palette, but I can never really get a nice look out of this. So this is one that I am thinking about passing on. If I don't use it by the end of the year, I'm going to be passing this one along because I don't get excited when I use this palette. I really don't gravitate it towards it because every time I have used it, my looks have kind of come out a little bit wonky. So I may get rid of this one by the end of the year if I have not used it. Now the Nude Tude palette is a recent purchase of mine, and I got this one off of Haute Look, and I got it at 50% off. So that's what it looks like right there. For the most part, I do enjoy this palette. The colors are quite nice, but I did have a little bit of trouble with the Nude Dude, so I'm a little hesitant to try this palette. I haven't done a full look out of it. I've only ever swatched this palette, so that's why I'm going to be keeping this one. Oh, I put the other one over here. So I'm going to be keeping that one just, kind of to try out. And then I have 2 palettes from Lorac. I have the Lorac Pro, the original, and then I'm sure you guys have seen this one and seen what it looks like. All of the colors in here are really nice and pigmented. They do have a lot of kick up, but for the most part, I really do enjoy using this palette. It's got a row of mattes and a row of shimmers. I really do enjoy using this palette. This one is one of the ones that I've had for a little bit longer. And I recently decided to pick up the Lorac Pro 3. And the reason I picked it up is because I am a neutral palette. I am a neutral palette wearer, and I really did like all of the colors in this palette. So I'm sure you guys have seen a review on this palette. I really do enjoy it. I enjoy the formulation of the Lorac palettes. These are probably one of my favorite palettes. So if I don't know what to do or what to reach for, I'll typically reach for those 2 palettes because I know they work for me every single time. I have 3 from Urban Decay. So I have the Naked One, which I'm sure you guys have seen. And again, this is pretty new to my collection, but I purchased it because, a lot of people talked about this palette and said how good the formulation was. So I'm sure you guys have seen this one. So this is the Naked One. That was the first one I picked up, and then I picked up the Naked 2 because I did like the colors in the Naked 2. They're very, very similar, but just slightly different enough where I decided that I wanted just to go ahead and pick it up. And then I recently got the Naked 3 because, you know, it has the pink tones in there, and I kind of wanted to start playing around with a couple more pinks, and this is the only palette that I have that has a lot of pinks in it. So that's why I went ahead and decided to pick up the Naked 3. And again, I'm sure you guys have seen this palette. You know, that's what it looks like. It has a lot of pink shades, and because of this palette, I have learned to love baby pink and roses and rose golds, and all of those colors. So I'm really glad I picked this one up, and I started playing around with those tones of eyeshadows, because if it wasn't for this palette, I probably would not have, I wouldn't have started playing around with a lot of pink tones, essentially. So this is my very, very first eyeshadow palette, and this is the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. I'm so sure you guys have seen this one. If you watched my makeup travel bag or travel makeup bag video, you guys would have seen this palette. Basically, I wrote in all the names because I didn't want to keep that little piece of paper that, or the plastic where all the names come written in. So I wrote all the names with like a little permanent marker, and I threw away that other piece of paper. And I love this palette. This is my favorite palette. I've had this one for a little bit over a year. This is my very, very first palette. This is my baby. I really do enjoy wearing this palette. This is pretty much the only palette I like to travel with. So the next palette in here is the Semi-Sweet palette. I don't like this one as much as the original, but it's still a nice palette. Like I said, you guys probably have seen this palette. It's a very neutral palette. My favorite shade in here is the peanut butter color, which is, you know, what inspired the peanut butter palette. But other than the peanut butter color, I really don't tend to reach for this palette that much. So this is another one that if I don't use by the end of the year, I will be decluttering this one. But for now, I'm going to keep it because it is fairly new. I've had it less than 6 months in my collection. So then I picked up the Chocolate Bonbons palette. And I picked this one up maybe about 2 months ago, I want to say. I love this palette. This and the Chocolate Bar are my two favorite palettes from Too Faced, and of course the peanut butter palette. Everybody freaking loved the peanut butter palette, but those are what the shades look like, and I really do like this, and I think it's also because it's a neutral palette and it has those little pops of color. I don't really like to experiment with too much color, so those little pops of color for me are just enough. So those are the three chocolate palettes, or, you know, scented palettes that I have from Too Faced. I didn't pick up the Sweet Peach palette. I wasn't super into that palette when it came out, but I did pick this one up, and I picked this one up on sale, and I don't really enjoy this palette all that much. So that's what the palette looks like. You guys can see it has a lot of shimmer shades to it, but the colors are really, really nice. They're really nice and pigmented, but they're mostly shimmers, and I always have, when I pull for a big palette, I want to pull for a big palette that I can make a whole complete look out of in the big palette. If it's a small palette and it has all shimmers, you know, sure, I'll just go ahead and pull out, you know, my e.l.f. Mad for Matte palette or my Naked Basics, but I kind of get annoyed that I have to pull, you know, a partner palette or a companion palette to this, and it's a huge palette already. Like, this thing is really, really bulky. This is called the Passionately Pretty Eyeshadow Collection. So this is like the Too Faced like Love palette. So if I was going to declutter any of these palettes, it would definitely be this one, but I'm going to hold off and declutter all of my palettes by the end of the year, but this is definitely like on the list to get decluttered. So again, along with the other two palettes. If I don't use this by the end of the year, I'm going to give it to a friend, family, sell it, whatever the case may be. I'm going to be getting rid of this palette. And the last palette that I have is actually probably one of my favorite palettes. Sorry, it's a little dirty, but as you guys can see, I really do love and enjoy this palette. And this is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Self-Made Eyeshadow Palette. And I'm not sure, I don't think this palette is available anymore. I'm sure you guys can still find it on other retailers, but I love this palette. This is probably, oops, sorry, my camera moved. This is probably one of my favorite palettes besides the chocolate bar palette. So those two are my go-to palettes. I love this palette and the chocolate bar palette. I really, really do enjoy this palette. And this is actually one of the cheaper palettes. I believe this was around like the $30 or $40 mark, where most of these are like closer to 50 bucks. So that's it for my palette collection. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you do. I'm probably going to be doing blushes, highlighters, and bronzers next. Those are the last part of my collection. I'm sorry I really didn't get to declutter much. Like I said, this is pretty much going to be a collection video, but don't forget to subscribe if you aren't subscribed already to my channel, so you guys do get notifications when I do my other decluttering and collection videos. I primarily do nail polish on this channel. Oh, another thing, someone else also asked if I could talk about what I'm wearing on my nails. So this is a Visual Wonderland manicure that I did. I do have a tutorial on this video. I'll link it down below on my channel, but this was using the Queen stamping plates, the Queen Visual Wonderland stamping plates. So again, I will leave everything linked down below in the description box, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!